He didn't feel old. He still cut the lawn himself, still carried the heavy bags from the store without asking for help, still opened jars for his wife with a firm twist. And yet, something was different. Not obvious, not dramatic, but there. John, 68, had always been proud of being the strong one, reliable, steady, quietly in control. But over the past few months, he noticed himself reaching for the handrail a little more, sitting down with a sigh that didn't used to be there. And one afternoon, while walking across the yard, he stopped mid-step, wondering for the first time, is something changing? That question stuck with him, because for many men, aging doesn't hit like a hammer. It creeps in like fog, soft, subtle, easy to brush off. A little stiffness in the morning, a forgotten name here and there, a longer time falling asleep. Nothing you'd call a problem, but enough to make you pause. And most men, especially the strong, quiet kind, ignore those early signs. They write them off as just being tired or a normal part of getting older. But here's the truth. Some signs of aging in men are so subtle, so easy to miss, that by the time you notice them, damage is already being done. And these signs aren't just about losing muscle or getting gray hair. They're about what's happening underneath, to your strength, your balance, your memory, your confidence. The worst part, because they show up quietly, they're often never addressed until it's too late. Today, we're going to talk about 4 invisible or nearly imperceptible signs of aging in men that most people miss, but absolutely shouldn't. And more importantly, we'll talk about what to do about them. Not with fear, not with shame, but with the kind of practical, honest steps that make a real difference. Because here's something every man over 60 deserves to hear. Getting older doesn't mean giving up your strength. It means learning how to protect it. So stay with me, especially if you've been feeling off lately, physically, mentally, or even emotionally. You might recognize one of these signs in yourself or someone you care about. Let's begin with the one that hides in your posture, your pace, and the small ways you move through your day. Let's talk about subtle loss of coordination and balance. It started with a small stumble in the hallway. No fall, no injury, just one of those quick, off-balance steps that you catch with a nervous chuckle and a muttered whoa. Then a few weeks later, another moment. Getting out of the truck, John stepped down and had to grab the door frame to steady himself. Again, no fall, no bruises, but the thought crossed his mind, that used to be easier. That's how it begins for so many men. Not with a cane, not with a fall, but with a tiny shift in how stable they feel while moving. And here's why it matters. Balance is the first line of defense against aging injuries. And subtle loss of balance is often one of the earliest signs of muscle atrophy, joint stiffness, and even neurological change. But men rarely notice it right away because we're trained to push through, to tell ourselves, the floor was uneven, my shoes were off, I just got up too fast. We explain it away until one day, the little stumbles become a fall that could have been prevented. Did you know that 1 in 4 men over 65 falls each year? And many of those falls start with minor changes in coordination, leg strength, and reflex timing. You might not realize it, but that subtle wobble when turning around or needing to touch the wall when putting on pants, it's your body asking for attention. So what can you do? First, test yourself. Try standing on one leg, eyes open for 10 seconds. Then switch. If it feels difficult, or if you're swaying, it may be time to rebuild your balance. Second, add daily micro movements. You don't need fancy equipment. Just practice standing with feet together and eyes closed for 15 seconds, walking heel to toe across the room, rising from a chair without using your hands, and turning slowly in place while noticing how steady you feel. Third, strengthen your legs and core. Even just 10 squats a day or seated leg raises can activate stabilizer muscles that protect your spine and knees. Fourth, consider Tai Chi or other balance-focused routines. Men often avoid these because they seem soft, but they build coordination, joint awareness, and mental focus, and prevent injuries before they happen. Jean began doing his own version of balance training every morning. While brushing his teeth, he stood on one foot. When watching TV, he stood up every commercial break and did 5 slow squats. It didn't feel like a workout, but after 2 weeks, he noticed something big. He moved more confidently. No more grabbing the railing when walking down the porch steps. No more slight stumbles on the curb. His body felt more plugged in. And that's the goal. Not to move like you're 25 again, but to move like you still trust your body. Because loss of coordination isn't about clumsiness. It's a quiet message from your nervous system and muscles. Help me stay sharp. Now, let's shift to something less physical, but just as important, a change that can slowly eat away at how you see yourself without you even realizing it. Let's talk about unexpected emotional flatness. It wasn't depression exactly. John still got out of bed, still checked the weather, still paid his bills on time. But things felt muted. He used to wake up early on Saturdays to wash the car, put on his favorite music, and enjoy the morning air. Now he sat at the table with coffee, staring out the window without really seeing anything. He didn't feel sad. He didn't feel happy. He just didn't feel much at all. And for men, that's a sign we don't talk about enough. Emotional flatness, a quiet dimming of enthusiasm, the disappearance of things that used to light you up, and it sneaks in slowly, often disguised as I'm just tired or I don't care about that stuff anymore. But here's the truth. After 60, changes in brain chemistry, testosterone levels, and neurological activity can lead to a gradual dulling of emotional responses. Not because you're weak or going soft, but because your body is evolving and your emotional world evolves with it. Men are often taught that emotions aren't for us. So when those emotions begin to fade, we don't sound the alarm. We just go quieter, stop calling friends, avoid new experiences, and start saying no to things we used to enjoy. But that silence, that steady retreat into numbness, isn't nothing. It's a sign. A sign that your brain may be understimulated, that your hormones may be out of balance, that your routines have become too narrow to keep your spirit engaged. So what can you do? First, notice what's missing. What used to bring you joy or curiosity, but now feels pointless? Don't judge it, just write it down. Second, reintroduce small sparks. You don't need a grand adventure, but you might need music you haven't played in years, a phone call to someone who used to make you laugh, a short walk at a time of day you usually avoid, or trying something new, even at 70. Third, move your body. Even light exercise releases dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins, the chemicals that bring vitality back to the brain. A 15-minute walk can feel like flipping on the lights. Fourth, consider a checkup. Testosterone dips, vitamin D deficiency, B12 levels, and thyroid function all affect mood and energy, and most men never test them. And finally, talk. Whether it's with a spouse, a friend, or a professional, sometimes just saying, "I don't feel like myself lately," is the first step back to feeling alive. John began with music. One morning, he turned on a playlist his son had made for him years ago. The first few songs didn't move him, but by the fourth he was humming, then tapping his foot, then standing up. It wasn't dramatic, but it was real. And for the first time in a while, he felt something warm return. Because emotional flatness isn't your fault, but it is your responsibility. Now let's move to a third sign. This one even easier to ignore because it wears the costume of normal aging, but left unchecked, it chips away its strength faster than almost anything else. Let's talk about early muscle loss. It wasn't like John stopped moving. He still walked the dog, took out the trash, shoveled the front steps after a light snow. But when he carried in the bag of water softener salt last week, he had to set it down halfway. That had never happened before. And it got him thinking, when did I get weaker? The truth? Probably years ago. Because for most men over 60, muscle doesn't disappear all at once. It quietly shrinks ounce by ounce. This process, called sarcopenia, begins as early as your 40s and accelerates in your 60s and 70s if left unchecked. And here's the dangerous part. Most men don't notice it until they struggle to get up from a low chair, can't open a tight jar, or avoid lifting things they used to carry easily. But sarcopenia isn't just about physical strength. It affects metabolism. You gain weight faster, hormones, testosterone, and insulin resistance worsen. Bone health, less muscle means a higher fall risk, and immunity. Muscles help regulate inflammation. And yet, So many men accept this slow weakening as normal. They chalk it up to age, move less, avoid stairs. And what happens? The less you use muscle, the more you lose it. So what can you do? First, notice the signs. Are you struggling to stand from the floor? Does carrying groceries leave you winded? Do your legs feel less steady after sitting for a while? Second, start resistance training now. You don't need a gym or heavy weights. Do wall push-ups in a bathroom. Squat to a chair 5 to 10 times slowly. Use light resistance bands while seated, or lift water bottles as dumbbells while watching the news. Consistency is more important than intensity. Your muscles just want to be reminded of what they were made for. Third, eat more protein. Men over 60 often don't get enough. Aim for 20 to 30 grams per meal from eggs, lentils, Greek yogurt, chicken, fish, or plant-based shakes. Fourth, get your vitamin D and testosterone checked, as both play huge roles in preserving muscle and are easily addressed if low. John didn't become a bodybuilder, but he added 10 wall push-ups to his morning, did light squats during commercial breaks, and started drinking a small protein shake in the afternoon. Within 2 months, he noticed his pants fit better, his knees didn't ache on the stairs, and he could carry the salt bag again without stopping. Because strength doesn't vanish overnight. It slips away while we're busy thinking we're fine. Now let's move to the fourth and final invisible sign. One that touches not your strength or your mood, but your mind. Let's talk about early changes in memory and cognition that many men shrug off, but shouldn't. John forgot where he parked. This wasn't the first time. It had happened at the grocery store last week, and now again outside the bank. Not just a moment of confusion, but a full few minutes of wandering, trying not to look concerned. He laughed it off with the teller. Guess I'm having a senior moment. But when he got home, he didn't feel like laughing. Because he used to have a mind like a steel trap, names, numbers, details sharp and fast. Now he sometimes paused mid-sentence to remember a word, walked into rooms, and forgot why, skipped birthdays, not on purpose, but because the reminder didn't feel urgent until it was too late. This is what early cognitive aging can look like in men. And here's the thing, it's not dementia. It's not Alzheimer's. It's something quieter, subtler, but just as important. It's your brain telling you, I need more. After 60, the brain begins to change in speed, flexibility, and chemical balance. That doesn't mean decline is guaranteed, but it does mean you have to start doing things differently. So what are the signs to watch for? Forgetting words mid-conversation, struggling to follow complex directions, losing interest in reading or problem-solving, missing appointments, and feeling mentally foggy more often than before. Most men ignore these signs. They say, I've got a lot on my mind, or laugh it off as aging. But inside, they worry and silently hope no one else notices. But here's the truth. The earlier you engage your brain, the longer it stays sharp. So what can you do? First, challenge your brain daily. Crossword puzzles, word games, chess, reading nonfiction, or learning a new skill. Second, move your body. Physical movement increases blood flow to the brain, feeds oxygen to neurons, and reduces memory loss risk by up to 40%. Third, eat for your mind. Leafy greens, berries, walnuts, omega-3 fats, and turmeric support memory and mental clarity. Fourth, stay social. Conversations build neural connections. Call friends, join a group, say yes to the barbecue, game night, or coffee invite. Fifth, prioritize sleep. One bad night might seem harmless, but long-term poor sleep drains cognitive energy. Aim for 7 to 8 hours. John didn't try to fix everything at once. He started reading again, 15 minutes before bed, began calling his brother once a week, and made a game of memorizing 3 things from every grocery list instead of writing all down. His brain noticed and responded because the male mind doesn't fade by accident. It fades in silence unless we keep it awake. So now let's bring it all together. For signs of aging in men, don't shout. They whisper, but they matter. 1. Loss of balance and coordination. It's not clumsiness. It's an early signal from your nervous system. 2. Emotional dullness. It's not just getting tired of things. It's your chemistry changing and asking for stimulation. 3. Muscle loss. It doesn't come with warning bells, but your strength, metabolism, and even mood depend on keeping what you've built. 4. Mental fog and memory slips. They aren't just age. They're your brain asking for fuel, challenge, and care. The good news? None of these signs mean the end of your vitality, but ignoring them puts it at risk. So here's your invitation. Take stock of where you are, without fear, without shame. Choose one thing to work on this week. Ask your doctor about the things you've been ignoring. Share this video with another man who needs to hear it. Because strength after 60 doesn't come from pretending nothing's changed. It comes from paying attention to what has changed and choosing to respond with clarity, action, and self-respect. You've carried so much for others. It's time to carry yourself, smarter, stronger, and more aware. If this video helped you, leave a comment. What's one sign you've noticed in yourself? What's something you plan to change this year? And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and stay with us for more honest, practical, and empowering conversations about living well after 60. Thank you for watching. Stay steady, stay sharp, and we'll see you in the next one.